Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Superficial Spirit. So excited to be sharing this time with you again. And thank you for sharing your day with me. My guest today is a makeup artist whose client list of clients includes superstar psychic Tyler Henry. That's for all my psychics in the audience and all my fans of psychics, and someone I know from back in the day, the club days, where we were both on the cover of Extra West, though not at the same time, unfortunately. He was recently named by Narcity as one of 33 guys who have badass jobs. He's here today to share about his healing and transformation journey. Please welcome Micah. Hi.
Hi, everybody.
How
How's it
are
going,
you
Peter?
doing?
I'm really
I'm
good.
good. I'm so excited to talk to you. Thank you for being here. I actually just moved back to Vancouver in May, and I wait, were you living in Toronto or am I crazy?
I was living in Toronto for
Yes.
4 years. Yes.
Okay,
I
good.
think
Yeah,
you
me
moved out
too.
there right before I left. Yeah.
Yes. So like being back has been a trip because I was gone. Well, I lived in Kelowna for about a year, just under 2 years, and then I went to Toronto. So it's been a while since I've been back in Vancouver, and I've
Yeah.
been to Davie Street a few times, and it's like, girl, it's like going back into the Twilight Zone. Like it's so triggering because I spent so many years just partying in the
I
city. So
know.
every memory I have is like, oh, I was fucked up there. I was fucked up there. I was fucked up
Oh
there.
my,
Like, oh my God.
walking past all the different like apartment buildings, because I live in Kits now. And it's like, and I live like a completely different life than I used to. Like when I go to the village, people are like, "Oh, do you live here?" I'm like, "Oh, I've been here for like 4 years." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I just never come out." But like, I walk past places, I'm like, "Wow, my life was so different back then." It's crazy. It
So different,
was
so
fun, but
different. It was fun. Yes, there was definitely a point where I wanted it to last forever.
yeah.
Like the party never ends. I have this one specific memory of you because you were definitely more established in the scene before I was. I think it was Vancouver's Next Top Gay Model, or was it Mr. Gay Canada? Which one was it for you?
I was in Vancouver's Next Gay Top Model.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I remember for those people who don't know what Extra West is, it's like this community newspaper. They used to print it, they don't anymore. It's just digital now. But back in the day, you were on the cover, and I
I
remember
was.
you and I were both at a party, and I like cornered you, and I was like, "Girl, I don't even know. I don't know what I said. It was something along the lines of like giving you the pep talk about like being an idol and being an icon." And I could not believe at that time that I knew people who were on the cover of newspapers and magazines. It was just like blowing my mind from Calgary to Vancouver, where people like you were like establishing themselves and becoming, nightlife celebrities. It was really cool.
It's actually really funny that you bring that up because I remember that party vividly, and I remember you saying to me, and I like didn't look at myself as that at all. I was like, "Oh, I'm just doing this cool, this like reality show." I had just moved back from LA, and I was like, "Well, if I'm going to be back here, I want to do something because when you live in LA, it's all about that type of thing, right?" And I remember you saying to me, "You're like, well, now that you have this platform, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it?" And I want to tell you, Peter, I was actually thinking about this. That actually, I keep that memory in my head because at that moment, I'm like, what do you mean what I'm going to do with it? I'm going to have fun and I'm just trying to be seen. And it rings true in my life to this day because now, like, whenever anything important comes up, I actually think about that conversation. I'm like, you have a platform, and I built this platform where I can share to thousands of people. So what am I going to do with it? If there's something important to say, then it has to be said, right?
Wow. I am so
Yeah,
glad that that landed.
yeah,
It's
it's
you
crazy. It's
you
kind of
never
kismet.
know like in
Comes full circle.
those wee hours of the morning when
I
you're
know, and I remember
when
being so offended by you. I was like, "How dare you tell me what to do with my life? I'm just trying to have fun. I want to be in pictures." I was so offended, and I'm like, "Who is this guy telling me that I need to use my platform for something?" But
yeah, I don't think you were
actually,
the
like
only one
that was
offended.
15 years ago at least.
Oh my
And
God.
it's still, and I was thinking about, before you asked me to do this, I was thinking about that probably 2 weeks ago. So
What?
yeah, it wasn't just, I was thinking about this. I thought about it over the course of my journey in the last few years a couple times. And I'm like, well, you have a platform. What are you going to do with it? So
Wow.
sometimes those words at the wee hours, they stay in someone's brain. So it's important to speak what you think, right?
Yes, I'm so glad to hear you say that. It's like you look back at those days and it's like a blur of like fun and success and creativity and like loud personalities. And we all kind of start in this really intense like microcosm of nightlife, and we all want to be celebrities and we all want to do our thing, and then our lives kind of like just go in different directions. Some people like Quana is still like hustling into
Oh yeah.
clubs, you know. Some people do it forever, some people don't, but yeah, what was nightlife like for you? Like you mentioned that you just wanted to be seen, you were coming from LA, you were on the show. Was nightlife something that you sought out, or did you just find yourself in nightlife?
No, I definitely sought it out, and I don't know what the transition was for me because when I first came to Vancouver, I'm from Vancouver, but when I first came from the suburbs, I was so very like prudish and very like I was like very much judgmental of all the things that are the scene. And with in
Mm.
a short period of time, I was like, my roommate was a porn star, I was friends with drag queens, and to me, those things were like, no, like you can't be. And then from there, like when celebrities reopened, I'm like, I want to be a part of this. I did everything in my power. Like there was like the initial hiring, and I like went every direction I possibly could to get in there. And then once I was in there, I'm like, I'm going to be a go-go dancer. Like that. It's so funny to think that these were my like dreams and aspirations. I mean, it was fun, but like that was like what I needed to be, and I did it. I mean, it was fun, and like, and then I never really looked at myself as a person in the scene because my friend group was actually quite small. Like I know that I had like I knew pretty much everyone that was in the scene, but I really kept to myself and a couple of friends for the most part, other than going to parties. But even then, I would be just be quiet in the corner for a long period of time.
Yeah, I remember you being quiet but everywhere. Like I definitely
Yeah.
remember you in the clubs, your face was everywhere. And nightlife is interesting because I was drawn to it like you because I thought it was where people became famous. Like I'm very much, and you are too, around the same age of the generation of Paris, Lindsay, Britney, nightlife
Yes.
being messy. Like it was very celebrated to party hard, to, to want to crave that fame. It's changed a little bit now. Like I feel like
Yeah.
Gen Z is more modest with
Yeah.
their fucking partying. Maybe it's
We were
because
all
they're
flash.
posting their fucking lives online so much than we had a little bit more autonomy to get, messy and like with nobody filming.
Yes.
Um, but it is such a launch pad. And I always think when I interview people like you and other people in nightlife from Canada, the only difference between our group of friends, like that community, and the community of kids who were in New York that were the club kids, that was RuPaul and James St. James and Amanda Lepore, was they were in New York and we were in Canada. Like we had the same creativity, we had the same lifestyle, we were in nightlife, we were performing, but being America is very different. Like Vancouver, I remember people saying like, you might be a big fish in Vancouver, but in the grand scheme of the world, it's nothing. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, we are so fucking cool. And now with even more distance from it, I do look back and I find so much more value because we did, and we did amazing things, and we continue to take that life, that energy with us in our creative worlds.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. It was definitely like a launching pad for a lot of things. I think that it was like a training ground in a lot of ways too. Like even though it was like nightlife is how it started, it kind of moved into all the different artistic fields. So when I ended up becoming a makeup artist. When I was pulling from people that I wanted to like get my creativity going, I was pulling from people that I knew from the nightlife. All the models that I worked with, all of the performers, and because of that, I met lots of like local celebrities, like housewives and stuff, from working in the nightlife. So it kind of like transitioned my life from nightlife into my artistry. So and like people like Cotton Venus, like I was part of House of Venus and then House of Style afterwards. So like from that, I drew a lot of creativity from that, right? So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. House of Venus, House of Style, House of Gaga. They're all exactly the same.
yeah.
So I remember a few years ago, let's just get into it. Um, I somebody had sent me a post that you had made on Instagram, and it was a very lengthy carousel post detailing a pretty intense, crazy, traumatic, abusive situation that happened to you. And at that point, I was, you know, we hadn't been talking really. Maybe we ran into each other in Toronto, although I think we were like ships in the night. You said I came when you were leaving.
Yeah.
But I remember reading that, and I had the podcast at the time, and I was like, damn, that is a story that I would love to
Mhm.
explore. But it was very much I guess beyond my confidence level when something is so fresh to be like, hey, come talk about it on my
Right.
podcast.
Of course.
Um, And you recently posted on, I saw it on Facebook. I can't believe I'm still on Facebook. I saw it on Facebook. Basically, it seemed like you had come out the other side. You posted it before and after. You talked about not drinking anymore, about healing
Yeah.
journey. I thought it was a good time to reach out and invite you on. And I'm so glad that you did, because that story, oh my God, it was like I had to read it a few times and really, I'm like, at first I was like, is this real?
I
Is
know.
Micah like losing it? Is he
I
sure that this
know.
is happening? Because I listen to true crime all the time. I've never heard something like that before.
I know. It's intense. And I mean, the thing is too, is when I wrote it and I posted it online, it was like basically my journal for myself at first. And it was just reviewing all the things that, because I feel like, so basically, for anyone who doesn't know, I was sexually assaulted by my former landlord. And he was my friend. We worked together at, when moved to Toronto. Let's go a little bit of backstory
Yeah, yeah,
before I
yeah.
go into the story. When I moved back to Toronto, I had a friend from Vancouver that was working at a male strip club, and I hadn't worked in a nightlife for a couple of years. I was really focusing on makeup, and then I was going out there to try to like expand my makeup career, but I needed somewhere to start working at first. So he worked at a male strip club, and then I also started bartending there. And then from there, I met this guy who was a bartender there as well. He had a place to live, a house. So I ended up renting a room from there. Um, that's where for me, it's like that's where the nightlife kind of went bad, because I don't know if you guys have seen. There's been lots of like this place was called Remington's, and there was lots of like documentaries. There's one called "Don't Fuck with Cats," who a guy that works there. There was like a murderer who used to always be there. Like a lot of negative things happen
Oh my
there.
God, yes. What's his name? What's his fucking name? Don't fuck with cats, that crazy killer. And he posted that thing on the internet. One man, I don't even want to say it. It was like a
Yeah,
murderous video. One man, one like ice pick or something.
yeah, something
Luca
crazy.
Magnotta. Luca
Yes,
Magnotta.
yes, yes,
Oh my
yes.
God,
So
I
like,
didn't know he was at Remington's.
yeah, I guess he had danced there right before I started bartending there. Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay. Didn't know
Yeah, so
that.
there's a lot of negative things that happen there. But for me, it's like I ended up working the nightlife again. I worked there for not very long. And yeah, so I made friends with this guy. He was in the military as well, which you probably read in the story. Felt like a really safe place to live. And then yeah, I thought things were happening while I was sleeping, and I would ask him questions like, so I'd have memories. I don't even remember everything now, but I remember I had memories of things happening, and I would just like ask him like passingly. I'm like, hey, did you try to wake me up or something like that? And then things would be happening to my body, and I'd find like all kinds of things would happen. And then I started just recording in my room. I got a video camera in my room and recorded audio. And then I think because he worked in intelligence, or he works in intelligence as far as I still know, I think that he got wind that I was trying to, because everything is connected in the house, like it's all connected to one thing. So he started acting really, really friendly to me, like, and then at some point, I woke up to him, and it was actually, I didn't put this in the story before, but our next door neighbor in my room, and that's when I was actually physically assaulted with a weapon, I believe, because I got scarred from it, and I had surgery from it. And it's been, I think that's after the surgery happened is when I think that the healing really began for me, because it was like a constant reminder.
So you were working at Remington's, you met this guy, you needed a place to live. He seemed normal, nice
Oh, for
enough.
sure.
You
Like
said he's in the
he seemed like the most
military.
normal person that worked there, because he had like a regular like job, like, you know what I mean, like in the
Yeah.
military. Um, yeah, it's going back to it. It's really crazy to think, because now that I just know the person compared to what I viewed him as, and then to what had all transpired, it's really intense. Yeah.
Is he straight? Like when I hear military, I think straight butch
Yeah, I
man.
mean, yeah, that he lives a straight lifestyle for sure. Like he has partner, he has kids now. Actually, ended up having kids right after I ran to Spain. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's things like that. I mean, it's just people can live double lives, and you just don't know. Like even after it happened, it was so hard for me to even fathom that this person could be could be capable of this. Um, yeah. So it took a
When
long time. It took a long time to heal from like all the emotional things. Like I stopped drinking immediately right after that, and I ran to Spain, and I just started. But from there, I kind of just like lost. When I moved to Spain, I kind of like lost my sense of reality. I was like there. I was in a new country. I was just like went with basically nothing. I'm like, I'm just gonna go get out of the country. Got a visa, moved there, tried to do some makeup, but I was just so for anybody who's been sexually assaulted, your mind just kind of, you're like floating through life. Like I would find myself walking into the street, like, you know what I mean? Like I was constantly in my head about what had happened. So I would just be walking into traffic and I'd be like, oh, and I guess God was protecting me because I didn't even, I don't know where I was. I was just there floating through life at that point.
My I remember the one thing that struck me from your story when I was reading it is like it all happened when you were sleeping, and there's this sense of like, is it real, is it not, because you're living with this person, he's normal, seemingly, and then you wake up with that feeling like
Yeah,
something isn't right, maybe you feel it in your body, and you, I guess the first step of like facing it is this real or is it not,
of
and you have to
course,
do that internally before you're like, hey, are you
of
fucking
course.
doing something to me?
Yeah.
So what was it like? Is it just like a slow, like you wake up once and you're like, is something happening? And how long does, from that moment to like, wait, something is definitely, like, what's that journey?
It happened over the course of months. And like, to be honest, like the weirdest part for me was like coming to the realization that, like, because we would flirt all the time. And so for me, it was like, why would someone want to do that to someone who would be willing to sleep with them, if that makes any sense? Like,
Yeah.
and so for me, it was like I would know something happened, and then so I would say, like, when I first started to think something happened, I thought I was just imagining. I'm like, no, like this is just weird. I don't know how this could be this way. Like there was some pretty graphic things that I won't go into detail that when I would wake up, I would see, and like, and it was it was really hard. But then once I started to realize things were happening, and I was sure, I would approach it like, oh, like almost like, oh, what we did, like what, haha, like trying to like get him to like, like trying to make, because in my mind, I'm like, I need to make this. I didn't want to feel like that was possible, that was happening in the way that it was. I wanted to make it, and even if it was in my mind, I wanted it to feel like it was a consensual type of thing in some kind of way. Like,
Mhm.
oh, he wasn't trying to rape me, he was trying to, you know what I mean? Something different. So I started approaching it like, oh, when you were trying to wake me up yesterday, like things like that, right? And then I think the turning point was when I was trying to like catch the actual acts happening, right? So yeah, it was really intense. It was really, to think back to it, it's just it feels like surreal in a way, and it's so unimaginable. Like these types of things are so unimaginable, and yeah, it was really hard. It was really difficult time.
It
If it
is
wasn't for if it wasn't for like the only clear memory I have, to be like at this point, like I have memory, I think I've blocked a lot out. The only clear memory I have is from when I was actually like violently assaulted, because I woke up so dramatically with the lights on in my room, which is when I discovered that it wasn't just him, it was actually our next door neighbor as well. And the lights were on, and then I just had a sharp pain from behind, and I woke up and I saw them behind me, and it was so strange because I just like fell to my bed hard, and then I just passed right back out again. And I almost, I'm grateful that that happened. It was like years of recovery from that afterwards, physically and mentally. But if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't be able to dismiss it as, I would have just let it go. You know what I mean? I would have just like thought like, okay, well, whatever. Like, and then slowly over the time, I would just been like, it was just a memory that doesn't, I can erase it from my mind. But since it was physically on my body for so long, I'd, it was actually a blessing because it made it so that I could actually get through those wounds and not live with them internally, because you should never have to bear someone else's action as your own. And I think a lot of people, they suppress these things that happen to them because a fear of not being believed, which is a huge thing that is, no one wants to imagine these things happen. And it's like they do, and they happen so often. It's so unfortunate, but they happen so often. So the fear of not being believed, which does happen, and then the fear, and then trying to rationalize how someone can be capable of that, because when you're not that type of person, you can't imagine someone that you trust and that you know would actually do that to you. And then three, a big one too, is what is it about you that they saw in you, that when someone's calculating and they plan it like that, what did they think about you that they thought this person is someone that can get away with doing this? And I think with those three things, it's like it's really hard to wrap your head around. And I think that it takes therapy, it takes time. And for me, it was the biggest turning point was to share the story. And I had to share it authentically. I had to share it for all the parts where I felt, because for me, when I was writing that story and I put it out online for everybody, I was writing it for myself at first, but when I put it out, I looked at it and I couldn't take things out because I wanted people who had gone through the same thing to read someone writing and see how you look at things because you blame yourself. Like, I did this. This is something I was doing. Seems entirely crazy. All the things that you feel like you contributed to make someone feel like they could do that to you. And because I feel like a lot of the time people blame themselves for these things happening, right? And you can't. You just can't. You can blame yourself, or you can try to fix situations about yourself, like putting yourself into situations like, I wish I was never working at a male strip club. You know what I mean? But like, that doesn't justify someone doing that to me. I wish that I wasn't someone who was drinking and making myself not be my best self, where they thought that I didn't have the confidence to stand up for myself. But that's something that you learn afterwards. So yeah, I think it was just very important to be very raw.
Oh my God, it is so important. And I think it does happen so often. And in your most recent post, you did hashtag Me Too. And I remember when the Me Too movement started years ago in nightlife, there was a lot of names that started popping up about problematic behavior and assaults that were happening. People that I knew via acquaintances, straight, gay. And the thing that always made me so sad is, like, we started this conversation talking about the magic of nightlife and how it can sort of be this incubator for the brightness that you can bring to the world at a later point. And it's also a very dangerous, predatory environment for other people. And I'm imagining you, like you said, you came from the burbs, you were looking for your people. You're like, oh, drag queens and DJs, they're kind of crazy. But then you eventually find your community and you feel in a way, it's okay to go dance and perform at a male strip club because these are my people. I know them. And then
Yeah.
something like this happens, and it's like it snatches that experience from you. And it takes, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm imagining myself questioning, like, is this the right community for me? Like all those questions that you just posed as a survivor, you have to reconcile. And then, like, what does that do to the positive memories you did have? And choosing to go forward in such a, the post was graphic. Like I remember reading it and be like,
Yeah,
holy fuck, like this is
I
crazy.
know.
um the bravery that takes to come out in that way, I can't imagine the mental gymnastics you were going through in your mind.
For me, it's actually crazy. I remember for me, when I wrote it and posted it, it was kind of just like a whoa, like that's like I have like, and I put on my professional page, remember too. So
Yeah.
like, it wasn't my personal page, it was my professional page. And I have celebrities on my page. I have all these different types of people, my family, friends I've had, or clients I've had from years and years ago. And I remember I was actually living with Quantum when I posted it, because we were roommates when I first moved
Wow.
back to Vancouver. And I posted it, and I was just like, whoa, it was this release. It was a fear, but it felt very separate. It felt like, okay, now, because when I posted, it was for everyone else. It wasn't about me. I wasn't healed yet. I wasn't healed in any way. But I posted it for everyone else, not people in general, because I knew that people were going to think all kinds of things about me for posting it. It was for people who have traumatic events that are undescribable, unimaginable, and they feel so alone, because I felt so very alone. And there's so many aspects of it that I don't even know. So your mind is racing and you're thinking all these different things because you only have snippets of what actually happened. So the story was more about what happened leading up to it,
Hmm.
and what my mind was like during the times, right? And I remember, and I walked into my apartment, I think it was 2 days later, and it was a male friend I had from years ago. And he was straight. And I remember, and he said to me, he's like, I can't believe what happened to you. I'm so sorry. And for me, it's like I almost forgot that people that I just know in general are going to be reading this. But then what happened very quickly after, I was working at a bar again, during COVID, and I would have people I did not know coming up to me, men and women, and they would come to my bar and they would just start telling me their story. And it was happening every day, like all the time. And the stories I heard were so, at first it was actually a little bit difficult because it made me realize that this is happening all the time in different, obviously not the same story, but this to people who are just trying to live their lives and have told absolutely nobody ever. And they're bawling. Men, straight men are bawling to me at my bar and telling me what happened to them. And I just sat there and I just listened. But at first, it was a lot to take in because it was just so overwhelming, because I had a very positive view of the world, a very naive view, even though, like, the magic that you're talking about, I would be in the situations all the time that bad things were happening, but I just never saw them for what they were. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
it's because I just have such a faith in people, but not
Yeah.
everyone is. of that type of, I don't like to say anyone's evil. I think there's only evil actions. I just don't think people have a very clear view of who they are, and that's why they project onto other people. And I feel like that it was just very difficult, but I realized how important it was at that moment. And that's why for years I left it up. And people for a long time came and talked to me about the story, like I said. And it was actually, it became something that was really important to me, to be able to voice things and be a voice for people when they couldn't be a voice for themselves yet. And because of
Wow.
that, there's been a few people who have told their stories and who have gone to police. I had this one 19-year-old girl who came up to me, and she works with me at the bar, and she unfortunately got assaulted during like the time when I knew her. And then she went right to the police. She's like, I was talking about your story, and I was like, this is exactly how this works. But I think that even more important for me now is not just sharing your story, but it's about how the journey can actually transform you as a person and make you more connected to yourself and really find value in who you truly are. And I think that's the most important part of the journey. Is bad things happen, but whether you believe in God or you believe in the universe, no situation needs to happen, but it doesn't have to go to waste. So for me, it's like, this has been a catalyst in my life to do so much change for myself, and all I can focus on is how I can affect my communities and make them better and make people feel more empowered. So that's the next step. And it's so for me, it's like I feel like I was stuck before this even happened, and now I feel like this actually pulled me back like a slingshot, and now it's propelling me forward to do what came here to do.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And there's so much more I have to offer than I ever realized now. So in a
Mhm.
way, it was a blessing. I know that sounds so crazy, but I feel like at this point, like I'm really seeing how the value I can take from that situation, I can really contribute to society at a whole as a whole. So
It's the power of the human mind and the power of spirituality, whether
mhm,
that is religion or the universe, or just having a strong sense of self and feeling connected to the people around you.
of course.
Because there are a lot of people who don't, or who are not able for various reasons to, use it as an opportunity to go deeper into yourself, to use it as a springboard to help the community, because we don't all have the same ways of coping. We don't all have the same brains. If you don't have support, if you don't have the language, if you don't have the platform, like there's a million reasons why people don't
Of
come forward.
course.
But the way that you've been able to turn that around is obviously helping people. I mean, you just shared a story, and knowing yourself deeper is really interesting, because you always struck me as somebody who was self-aware. So
Mm.
to go even deeper, unfortunately, through that trauma, but to be able to look at it as a gift now is pretty unbelievable. It's like those things I used to watch on Oprah. I'm like, how can you turn that into
I
something
know.
so beautiful?
To
It's
be
like,
honest, like to actually like, I mean, forgiveness is something I never would have been able. I never thought I'd actually be able to achieve. Like I can tell you, like for during COVID especially, like I was drinking so much, and I was talking to my therapist. He's like, "It's your life raft," and he kind of left it at that. But like it was kind of a life raft. But what I realized is, once again, you can't carry the weight of someone else's shame. But for me, it's like I was like drinking, and people say this often, but I was drinking and I was like almost expecting that person to die from me drinking. You know what I mean? I was destroying my life. I was stuck in a stagnant place. I had a lot of resentment towards people who weren't there for me necessarily during that time, which I can't really blame anyone else because it's really hard to fathom like happening to anybody, anyways. But
mhm.
I had a lot of like, you. And I think that's natural. Obviously, you're going to be angry when something like that happens. But once I finally got to a place where I could actually, and I think I wanted so much more. And during that process, I had to look at myself for all the, at first, it was in a negative way. Like I was looking at myself, like, why would this person do this to me? Why does no one believe me? Why, or not no one, and that's not necessarily what happened, but that's how I felt in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Why is society built this way? Why are like, and then I started being realistic about how things operate, and I started looking at things that really mattered. Because him going to jail, at first I didn't say anything because I thought he was going right to jail, which is so naive of me in the first place. So at first I didn't report it because I'm like, I don't want to put him in jail. It's not like, it's like I don't want to ruin his life, which I think is a big thing for a lot of people, and they think that way as well. But I also felt like I sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but like not only that, but I also started looking at myself, and I was like, rather than look at why is okay that this happened to me, what is it about me that I want to take from this? What do I want to do with my life? What is it that is stopping me? And once I started doing that, I started looking at all the things that it made me look at. And I realized, okay, well, this hurts. So let me heal this part of myself. And I'm like, wait, this is now I know how to use this as a tool to change. I don't want to be someone who is, as much as I love the nightlife, I'm older now. I've done that. I've had so much fun. I
Yeah.
got what I needed from that. You know what I mean? I don't want to be in that environment, staying up till 3 in the morning or later.
Or later.
I want to develop myself, you know, and I started looking at all the different things that like maybe aren't my best qualities. And not that those are the reasons it happened, but it made me look at those things. And I think that once I start to look
Mm.
at those things, I'm like, well, what's not serving me anymore? What's not serving me anymore? And then I started to like really start to do things for myself, not because that happened to me, but because I was looking at those issues and it started to make me realize like what value I had. I had to not be sexually promiscuous anymore because I wasn't capable mentally, physically. Like, I mean, I gained a ton of weight because all I did was eat and drink, and I just wanted to create a cocoon for myself, right? And I started realizing that my value, spiritual body, my physical body, those things actually have a lot of value to me, and I want to share that with somebody who is means something. I want to respect someone else like I want to be respected. So I mean that's not for everybody. I mean do your thing. Like there's no judgment there, but that's for
Yeah.
me. But I've had a lot of fun in my life. I don't need to have all the fun
Yes,
like this all the time.
girl.
Yeah. But and then also like what impact can I make? What voice do I have? What can I give back to society? Like there's so many people like, why am I falling into stereotypes? You know what I mean? Like why am I being the stereotype? Why do I feel comfortable as a stereotype in a
Mm.
lot of ways? What parts of those stereotypes are actually me and what parts are actually things that I created to become a persona of who Micah is? So when I started stripping those things away and I had a lot of time to think about it, I started realizing like I learned a lot from those things, also
Mhm.
those parts of myself that were from the nightlife that I really loved and I want to celebrate. And I can actually connect with people. So all the negative experiences that I've had, those are my bridges to people who feel like I don't want to be a person who comes in like, I know this, you should be like this. It's like I've experienced that, I've done that, I've partied like this, I have been a person that was looked at this way. Now let me show you another path because I can show you something that is whatever that means for you. What can you do with that? Because it's all lessons, right? That's what we're here for. We're here to learn. So
Oh, so good. It's so good. And like hearing, I think about this a lot from somebody who's been obsessed with fame my whole life and just finding so much value in celebrity and that's it. It's
mhm.
taken me a long time to unravel that and then just start looking around my daily life for inspiration and like feeling like all those years ago and I was like, I'm a star. I can still have that even if I'm not a star in the traditional sense. And
You do it
when I
well
hear you,
too.
yes, honey. When I hear you say, you know, you want to be a bridge for community, you just want to share your story, you just want to let people know that you've been there and this is where you are now as an option, not telling them they have to.
Yeah, of
It's so
course.
important because we're so bombarded by pop culture and social media now that it's easy to just trust the people with the biggest followings or the most beautiful body or the most popular, like whatever. But if
Yeah,
you open your eyes, I mean, this is why I love my podcast so much, is people like you who I've known for nearly 2 decades can share a story like this. And it's just the same as me going to chapters and finding like an inspirational self-help book of somebody I've never fucking met, or listening to like a self-help influencer telling me how to like manifest my dreams or like align with my trauma or whatever. You never know the people that you know personally, or maybe that you've known in your life that have wisdom to share if you just ask and open up.
for sure. And I mean, like, there is value in like I'll say too, like I went to Toronto, I think it was a year ago, and I got flown out to Toronto to work with the all famous Tony Braxton. And I know
Tony.
that was like I've worked with some really cool people in the last couple of years as I started to do my healing. It's like the universe is like, okay, Micah, let's bring you to where you were supposed to be. That's so I mean, not to say that celebrities don't have any more value, but they do have a different form of wisdom too, because obviously at someone at that level, there's a reason they were able to get there and
Yeah.
they've seen a lot and people try to take advantage of them in different types of ways. And so with Tony, I when it came back for the second movie that we did together, I was thinking of like I wasn't valuing myself yet enough. And so I took like an assistant makeup job. And then she was talking and she found out that she's like, I didn't apply for the head of department. And she's like, no. You have to have a seat at the table. You can't just be included. And I think that's so important for us as queer people or as people of color or as just people in general, to be honest. It's like,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we need to value ourselves, and we need to go after what we want, and we need to think that we're worthy of that. And I think that's really important.
From Miss Tony Braxton.
I know.
I was gonna ask you in my original intros, I called you celebrity makeup artist. And I was like, well, I don't want to say celebrity makeup artist and feel like he needs to like tell me all the celebrity, but you brought it up. Yeah, you're right. Celebrities have they've done it. Like they've overcome shit to get where they are. That's so cool that Miss Tony Braxton was able to be like, girl, come on, get your seat. And did you end up applying for that head of
Well, we were already
department?
done, but in general, after that, I took that wisdom and brought it forward into things I do now, for sure. And yeah, it's just about like creating investing in yourself. It's like it's
Yeah.
really big thing, investing in yourself and believing in yourself. It's just a matter of like really figuring out what you want and taking it to that next level, and like ask yourself why you want it, because if there's no why to what you want, then is it really what you want? You know what I
Oh
mean?
my God. This is the friggin' theme of my life. Like how
Yeah.
many celebrities I've interviewed on this, and I use the term celebrity loosely on my show, who are like, Peter, like you can't be, and I also know real celebrities who won't come on my show because they are too famous about doing the experience of doing something for fame or for superficial versus doing something because this is your calling and this is what your spirit and your soul needs is very different. And people who become famous because they're chasing fame flounder and don't last very long, and people who are artists tend to have more stability. I mean, not all the time, because I think Hollywood and entertainment is toxic by nature. Just the industry is crazy, but you have to know what you want going into it. You have to have clarity of self and
Yeah.
clarity of what's behind it. Because if you just chase fame, oh my God, you just,
You'll
you're
do
me in
whatever.
2009.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's like, but you'll do whatever to get it, right? You'll do whatever to get it. And I think that's I've seen people that I've known for years who just want to be famous, and then the path doesn't really go anywhere, and they end up just doing it for fame's sake, and it's not.
It's so stupid.
Yeah, and it goes back to that advice you gave. It's like you have a platform. What are you going to do with it?
Yes, exactly. And you're doing great. Um, I want to know how this affects your trust, because how do you go into relationships now? Like,
Yeah.
at what point do you disclose this? Do you even have you been able to start dating and stuff again?
You know what? It's like I'm just starting to go back into the dating thing, but like now I don't know. It's like Vancouver's never been a really big place for me to find someone to date. But I am open to it now. I don't really I think that my trust, if it was at this point now, which is why I waited for a long time, because I didn't want to take my like distrust of people into any type of situation. And so it took me a long time of healing and like therapy and things like that, and then taking things like that were toxic out of my life, and just trying to develop myself to be the best person that I would want for myself to give to another person as well. um Trusting people in general, like I think that I feel like I have a stronger version of trust, because I've been really good at like filtering out people that don't align with my values anymore. You know what I mean? So I think
Wow.
that I have a really strong group of friends, and I just notice things. I don't judge. I found a way to like just really like recognize warning signs and like red flags. And it's not so much about worrying if someone's going to like do something of that nature to me. I don't. There was a period of time where I was a little bit scared of people in general for that reason, but I think it's more so just about finding people who have the same types of goals, values, and things like that in general. And I feel like because of that, I have an amazing group of friends that I surround myself with, and they're usually people who want to do something bigger, for themselves. Because it doesn't have to be like a global scale, like I'm going to go save the world, or you know what I mean. But like, just they
Yeah.
have a vision and they have a purpose and they have values, whatever that may be. Because
Yeah.
everyone's values are different, but they're all important. We're all different people, right? But they have something that matters to them, and I think that's what really matters to me too. Yeah.
Good. You got your bullshit detector has gotten stronger.
Oh yeah, I can sense it in a minute. And the thing is too is like for me, it's like I don't just like do drama. Like I used to be theatrical. I feel like I don't just like cut people out of my life or like say like oh like call people on their bullshit, because we're all here trying to do our best. I feel like I generally believe that most people are trying to be their best self, whatever that means to
Yeah.
them at the time.
Yeah.
Generally, obviously. Um, so I just you just know when someone resonates with the same things you do, you just know. And I think that but I have noticed that things that mattered to me 5, 6, 7 years ago are not the same as they are now. So I think that
Yeah.
that's a big thing too. So yeah,
What?
and I'm really excited. I want to talk about too. It's like I'm going to be starting a charity, which I will be.
What?
Yeah, so it's going to be giving back to women and men, and I'm going to be doing like training for, because a lot of the time I feel like the biggest thing that happens when things like this happen is that you either don't leave the situation that you're in, if you're, say, if you're living with somebody, this is happening because you don't have the financial means to do so, or you don't have the confidence, or you do leave and then you don't have the resources, or you don't have anything to fall back on. And so for me, it's like a lot of people. So I'm going to be taking training courses, and it's going to start off like a. There's a lot of things coming. There's a lot of things in development right now. I don't want to go into too much detail because it's really exciting and it's going to be happening very soon. But I'll talk about the charity part of it. We're raising money to like train women and men who have gone through sexual violence. To do first, because obviously my skill level is makeup and hair. So I'm going into places where, say, for example, a woman comes out of like human trafficking and she doesn't know where to do. It's going to be training them on how to like learn the skills of hair and makeup so that they can maybe have a freelance type of program. And then we're going to be sponsoring for grants to go into schools that are obviously very expensive. So yeah, there's a lot of things happening. I was really excited about.
Oh,
Yeah, because
that's
you know it's like,
amazing.
yeah, and I feel like that's going to be something that really helps me heal as well.
Totally. Bringing it full circle, you got to help back. You got to give back and find a way to bring that into everything that you do, right?
Oh, for
That's
sure.
amazing. You did say something offline. I don't know if you can share it about why you had to take down that post.
Oh yes, so I did take down that post, not because I was like ashamed of the story. I mean, it was still part of my story, and it's still there's. I mean, yeah. Anyways, but I am. I was approached when I was in Toronto again. I was working on another movie out there, and I just casually was talking to the director because I am very open about what happened. And at the time, it was on my Instagram still. And so we had a discussion, and then she came to me at the end of the movie, and she's like, "I want to make this into a movie." So I took it down because there is a script that was written. So that could be something that's in development soon. Yes, the whole first draft is done, and we'll see what happens with it.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be waiting. You'll have to come back on when that's released. You and the whole cast. And
I
I'm
know.
available for cameos. I can
Yeah,
be in the strip club, be the twink in the DJ booth or something.
yeah.
Um, Really quickly too, I want to get your insight on sobriety because I know that you don't drink. It seems like a lot of people our age and even the like kids who are just getting into the scene are more sober curious at
Yeah.
least.
Oh my
What's
goodness.
your plan? Like, are you like I'm stone cold Steve sober for the rest of my life? Or are you just exploring life without alcohol?
For me, so during my like healing last year, I went sober and I did it for 4 months, and then I started like just planning like different events that I was going to go and drink. And I mean, it was for me, it was fine, and I would do it. I just don't feel like it has the same like type of draw that it used to. And I can tell you right
Mhm.
now, like being sober for these since this year, um, I've never been happier. There's so much clarity that has come to me from being sober. And I mean, not everybody needs that, but for me, it's like I think I used it too much as a crutch
Mhm.
for escaping reality. And right now, I just want to live in my full reality. And I like it. I've become more spiritual too. Like I feel like it's really like I just feel really happy. Like I feel like being
Good.
sober has just made me really happy. I mean, I think I drank enough for 2 lifetimes,
Oh
sometimes in a
yes, you and me
weekend. So
both.
yeah, so I think that for me, it's like I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the future will bring, but I just know that for me, it's like there's so many opportunities, and so my mind is just so much more clear,
Yeah.
and I'm loving it. I'm really really loving
I
it.
I know I fucking sobriety is so nice. It feels so good. And then it's like for me, it's like 95% angel, 5% devil is okay with me.
Yeah,
When the itch comes, it's just like, okay, how can I navigate this without doing anything dangerous? But I agree that it changes your priorities and you're like, well, it's not the same as it used to be, and it's okay to let that go. But for me, it was such a big part of my identity of like, Peter Breeze is a fucking party animal. And now I'm like, no, I'm not. I meditate every day. I swear I'm a good boy now. But yeah, it's like it's a journey. It doesn't
yeah.
happen
I
overnight.
remember when I was a dancer. I remember thinking because like having like no having lineup privileges. I remember thinking like probably like 10 years ago. I'm like, why would anyone ever leave this life? Like, I'm like, this is like, and I think back to it. I was like, I remember just being like sweaty in the basement of celebrities between my sets, just like drinking. Like I wasn't even social. I was just like drinking by myself or with my other dancer. Like what's the glamour in this? But at the
Oh my
time, I felt
God.
fabulous. I felt really cool.
Oh my God. Yeah. Walking past that line feels so good. Okay, to wrap things up, if there is somebody listening to this episode and they are going through something similar to what you're going through and they're looking for that first step and they're feeling overwhelmed and they don't know what to do, what's a good first step for somebody who's experiencing abuse?
Good first step. If you, I mean, the best first step would be finding someone that you trust and just starting to talk about it. You don't even have to talk about it with a lot of like surety, just open the conversation. Because for me, the first person I talked to didn't actually necessarily go the best, like you would hope. But the thing is, when you leave it in your body, it'll drown you. And you think that you can suppress it, but it will come out in other ways. Like for me, I remember there'd be like, I had physical pain in my body because I was holding on to it, like actual physical pain. I'm like, why is my body like, it was really intense. It was like your body will manifest it in different ways, either in your actions or in your feelings or in just your view of the world. If you don't feel ready to do that, start writing things down. You have to get it. The main thing to me is just getting it out of your body and just know that like, no matter what you feel about the situation, there's so much shame that comes with it. There's so much dark shame, and it is not your shame to wear. Like, you don't have to wear the shame of someone else's actions. And like, that is the biggest thing you have to remember, because you'll feel the shame, and they're not feeling shame. They're not. Like, for them, it's about power. It's not even about sex. I don't think. I think it's about power. And with you keeping it in your body, you are giving them the power to hide in the darkness. And I feel like you don't deserve that. And there is a light at the end. And yeah, I think that would be the first step.
You are the light at the end of the tunnel, Micah. You are the light.
Me? Are you serious? Thank you.
Shut up. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. You know what? It feels so serendipitous. I actually took a break from recording while I moved, and you're the first interview I've done getting back into it. And it feels like so perfect because you touched on all the topics: nightlife being inspirational, you're friends with celebrities, you survived trauma, and now you're spiritual. It's like, thank you. Like, I didn't even have to ask. You gave it all. And I love it. Thank you so much.
And one last thing too, it's like spirituality. I'm like, everybody has like, I think there's so much like stigma behind being spiritual or talking about God. I feel like people have to remember, like, God can be just like your higher self. And I feel like if you can't talk to anybody, start talking to your higher self and be kind to yourself too. But like, talk to your higher self about what you should do next, because the wisdom is within you. And I feel like if you can find that connection to that, something bigger than yourself, you'll have so much more capacity to deal with the situation.
It's all inside of you. Yeah. When I started meditating, I realized it's like, stop looking outside and start quieting your mind, and like leaning into stillness. Fucking hard to sit and meditate.
It's so hard. Especially when you go inside there and you're like, well, it's chaotic. Get me out of here.
It's good advice though. Yeah. Start on the inside, start finding people you can trust and sharing your story. And I feel like you're going to be coming on again soon, Michael, with all the stuff you're working on.
Okay, let's do it.
Thanks for being here.
I really appreciate it.
Bye.